conflict in my family of origin. My parents went through a really nasty divorce, just very acrimonious. And then I had a couple of people who were in leadership over me when I was a little girl who, there was a lot of violence. And so as a little girl, I learned to survive, it means I keep everybody happy. And so I learned from the time I was itty bitty to be a people pleaser, because if I can keep everybody happy, I'm not gonna get molested and I'm not gonna get hit and somebody else isn't gonna get hit. And so I thought I was a peacemaker, and God said, blessed are the peacemakers, because anytime somebody raised their voice, anytime there was even the potential for conflict, everything in me goes, it's okay, everything will be okay, everything will be okay, everything will be okay. And there's a massive difference between the righteousness that Isaiah talks about and fear-based peacekeeping.
Absolutely.
I'll make a little advertisement. This is an old book. It's probably 4th or 5th edition now, but it's called The Peacemaker by Ken Sandy. He has a ministry based on, I don't know if you've ever heard him. He's amazing. And he talks at length with a lot of wisdom and authority about the difference between peacemaking that God has called us to. That means you'll step into conflict with humility and kindness and a heart that's bent toward restoration. First us to God and then to each other. And peacekeeping, which is what I did for decades, which is I will lie and pretend like everything's okay, so nobody's gonna get hit. That's not, and I thought I was keeping peace. That's not peace.
No.
That's a lie, it's deceit. And what happens is instead of peace coming in, it actually gets worse. Because that's where you're really in the dark. That's where roots of bitterness grow. That's where resentment grows. That's where maybe you had conflict and it turns into abuse. Because you don't trust the Lord enough to go, with a gentle heart. You know, Galatians says if you're fired up about confronting somebody, you should probably back that bus up. It says be careful. You might be tempted in the same area that you want to point a finger at somebody. But it took me years and years and years and years, and really a lot of not just confession, but a lot of healing for God to teach me the difference between peacemaking, which is righteous and godly, and always the motive is restoration. Again, first us with the Father, then us with each other. And peacekeeping, which is a lie, and which inevitably makes it worse. And so I think sometimes if you come from maybe a family of origin like mine, where there's a lack of real peace, or maybe just your personality is softer, you might be an introvert, or you're just, depending on culture. In the South, we tend to avoid conflict and say, well, that's just inappropriate. I mean, let's just talk about something positive today. Let's not talk about, and so there's almost the superficial conflict is bad. And I'm like, actually, there's nothing about conflict that's bad. Usually, if you walk through conflict with humility and a heart bent toward restoration, that misunderstanding or disagreement leads to great intimacy and depth, first with God, then with each other.
Sometimes, I know it's shocking, but it could be that maybe that conflict is really for me. Like, I know you're just amazed. There could be somebody who didn't like me. I mean, there might be someone out there. And so then, I know it's shocking. But the idea there would be that maybe I need to stop and ask myself, is being right really worth it? I'm so committed to my position that I'm gonna stick conflict after conflict. And I've discovered that no, I've discovered I need to back up on my opinion and ask myself now, am I stuck? Am I stuck just because it was that way back then? Is that the way it needs to be today? Have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. And especially grandmother listening, ask yourself, was it really that great back then? Was it really? Or is now a new day? And if we would get into now, I don't think being right is really worth it to keep me separated from somebody who I know that God's put in my life.
Not too long ago, someone just eviscerated me. Anyway, my publisher said, they accused me of being a racist. Anybody who knows me would go, she's actually the opposite. And they were like, well, you have got to print a rebuttal. And I was like, no. I said, that's not true of me. But man, there's so many other things that are. And I said, no, I can tell them more if they want to go to that well. I think when we're younger, we spend so much time and energy protecting our reputation. And when you get the point of going, you know what, I want to put more of my time and energy into promoting reconciliation than protecting my reputation. I mean, my reputation, if I really told y'all some of the things I've done that God has forgiven me from, y'all'd go, man, she's a lot worse than I thought. He's just been so kind that he hasn't made all my sin public. But he has been, goodness gracious, he's had so much to redeem and heal and forgive in my life. So when you lay down your reputation, because Jesus was a man of no reputation, the Son of God, man of no reputation. And you focus more on, how can I love you well? You know, I've said this before and Better Together, but one of my favorite writers, there's a million, but one of my favorite more modern writers, a guy named Brennan Manning, he says, if we could see where our enemies weep, what causes them to weep, they would cease to be our enemy. If someone could see, this is what Elaine went through this morning before she got to work. Goodness gracious, this is an exhausted young mother who is misunderstood. Let me not be so quick to take offense, but let me be real quick to say, what's going on? How can I pray for you? How can I? And so I want to, the older I get, be so quick to say I'm sorry and so slow to take offense.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe today and you'll never miss a new upload.
And don't forget to check out our Better Together shop. Thanks for being a part of our community.